Welcome everyone. I am Liminalia and I have a special unboxing to go through with you today. This is the HeroQuest that was released in Japan in 1991. Very rare, very hard to find. I was lucky enough to find a copy of this on some of the Japanese kind of resale shops online and get it shipped to me. They're not easy to find. I've been actually looking for these for quite a while and was lucky enough to come across one that's in pretty good shape. So I posted some images of this online and got a lot of responses of people wanting to see it in a video. So here I am. I normally don't do videos, so I apologize for any terrible jokes. I'm gonna do this all in one take, so no editing, but we will go through it and hopefully you'll get a good sense of what's included here for something that is not, again, easy to find, and but we'll go through it. So the front box here, art should look very familiar, although everything here in the Japanese script, of course. HeroQuest at the top, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that even. But we also have a lot of other text here on the front of the box that wasn't on the North America or UK versions of the box. I think it was just, they wanted to provide more explanation as to what it was to the Japanese audience. So roughly translated, these things are, it's a three-dimensional RPG labyrinth. And at the bottom, it talks of monsters, traps, and treasure in a world that it reveals as you walk through it. So speaking to the nature of the game as, basically fog of war, and you reveal items as it goes. They wanted to point that out apparently here on the bottom. Up here on the top, they mentioned that it comes in 3 stages, which is something that is actually unique to this version. Makes it quite different from the North America or UK version, or any other country for that matter, versions that I've seen, where it's got kind of a scaling, leveling system as you move through the quests, and they did call that out here on the cover. Box is a little bit flimsy. I'm going to try and flip it over here so we can see the back. But I think this is kind of similar to the UK box, where it is a little bit of give here, but otherwise very similar back to the UK box. Same image as you see, the same 3 boys playing the game on the UK box. The same kind of randomly laid out, and or I think even some non-finished pieces. You could tell the doors don't actually look like the doors in the finished game. The fireplace doesn't look like the fireplace. If you haven't noticed that before, take a look at your own copy. It does not match the final game, but it's very interesting. They did end up using that same image on the box here. I did have a little bit of tape damage here, which I'm not quite sure if I want to try to get off, because I don't want to damage the box, but I may try to get that removed at some point. Post any tips if you got them. So that is the box, and we will get into opening it. We have nothing on the back of the lid. I know that will disappoint some people. We have the Zargon and or Morcar and or in this case Grimdead screen. You will note that this has not been folded, so either this game has not been officially played or they decided to do it without the use of the screen. Same artwork on the front, but on the back it's I believe the UK version is similar to this, where it has the layout of the furniture and the tiles and kind of how those appear on the quest map to give guidance as to how to lay out the quest map. The blocked square tiles, which we'll see a bit later, are more like the UK version, which looks more like the North American falling block trap tiles. So there's that, and then we'll look at all the pieces when we get into it. The board, they did not touch at all. It is the same board You'll note they didn't translate HeroQuest. They left it as is. Here's the boot. So it is the exact same board. The typical HeroQuest presentation when you get one of these off of eBay or somewhere used, coming in all kinds of chaos. It's got the black storage bin here that the UK version had. But all elements were included here, so I was lucky to get a complete copy. We'll go through some of these elements here. I'm going to start just with the pieces, because the pieces are really the same. Let's see if you can see those. They are the same as the North America and the UK versions. So no real changes on the figures themselves. Now, what else do we have? Maybe a couple more here. Our good old Barbarian and a Mummy. So the pieces, well, it did say made in Japan on the cover. I'm not sure if they still produce these centrally somewhere else and had them shipped to Japan for the actual assembly and boxing, or if they actually had them kind of extruded in Japan. But it appears to be very, very similar to the UK version in most respects, especially the components. The doors, luckily, were stored outside of their bases when it came to me, so there was no kind of bending or creasing as it shipped. They are kind of the same doors that you might expect. No real differences. Same with the furniture. When I looked at, there was an orc in there. When I look at the color, it is the same color as the UK version. I know the North America version is a little bit more saturated color on the plastic and even on some of the printing. But this is definitely aligned with the UK version. Otherwise, the pieces are really the same with the exception of, here, I'll pull the piece out of the table. They at least did label them in Japanese. So there is one difference. They at least had to do the cardboard printing in Japanese. But otherwise, it looks very, very similar. The one piece that I saw that was different was the candles. And nicely enough, they put them in a separate bag. They did not store them on the table, so I do have intact candles, which is very nice. But the candles themselves are slightly different, if I can get them out here. Here we go. And so they are slightly rounded at the top instead of being pointy. And it does not appear that they are broken off or anything like that. They just were molded that way. So I don't know if that was a, child safety. You can't ship pointy candles, although we do have swords and knives in here, so maybe that's not it. But the candles did appear slightly different than what I had in my North America version. I think that's about it. We can take a quick look at the tiles. There's the blocked tile and the double blocked tile. All these tiles are single-sided, so you don't get the double-sided double use of the tiles. Here's our staircase and our secret doors. Again, only single-use tiles. So that's that. I think I'm going to move on then. We do have the character sheets, which looks like they got split into two pieces here, but this is the character sheet, all in Japanese. It's got the place for your name up here at the top. Body points, mind points, attack, defend, and gold. And then a whole section for all the rest of your equipment, whether they be artifacts or potions or what have you. And then finally at the bottom, a list of all the quests that you can check off. So instead of circling how many quests you've done, it actually lists the name of every quest and you can check off each one. Obviously this doesn't work with expansions, but it does work well for the base game. Next, we have the character cards. I think the art on these is pretty similar to that of the North American and UK versions. Obviously, everything in Japanese. I will show you, if you happen to get a copy of one of these and you need to have translation, first of all, there is an excellent translation available online, particularly at Ye Olde Inn, that Hispazargon had put together with the help of Eudoxio, which translated all of the game and all of the Japanese quests, going through that work of really parsing out, beyond the literal translation that I'm about to show you, what was the intent of each piece of text. So that is available, nicely formatted and available on Ye Olde Inn. I highly recommend you check that out. You don't even need to have this game then to get access to the quests in that quest book. You can just go online and download that. But if you are lucky enough to get a copy of this, you can get apps on the iPhone for Translate, and that will give you this photo mode. This is my iOS version. There is also versions on like Samsung and any of the Android properties. But it will allow you to, if I can view it, to hover over the card and actually translate some of that text to Japanese. Give it a second. But it will actually call it out for you. Now the translations may change every time that you look at it, I found. So use it with a grain of salt and more directionally. I'm gonna try and zoom in on this too. And then the whole back side actually has additional instructions. Oops, I'm off camera here now. I'll just show you the card. The whole card has additional instructions on the back for how to utilize your character. And for the wizard, it is particularly long because of the use of spells in this quest is quite different. So for both the wizard and for the elf, there are beginner level spells, which is for healing. And it is simply a 1 body point heal that they can have access to. It is an action to cast, but there is unlimited castings of that. So I guess your Zargon or your Grim Dead would have to come with ways to incentivize people not to just spam healing and restore everybody to full BP at the end of every fight. But that is the beginner spell, and then they move on to intermediate spells later in the quests, where they have a better healing spell of up to 4 body points, where you roll 4 dice, and if you roll white shields, that's how many body points you can be healed. There is also a fire spell, which will cause 2 body points of damage as well. And then finally, on the advanced level, that's when you actually graduate to the spells that are in the original base quest pack that we are all familiar with. That is considered the advanced level of spells. So all of that detail is here on the back of the cards. Otherwise, it mostly is, you can see the barbarian has almost nothing. He has the standard actions, nothing really new. The dwarf has the ability to search and disarm traps, as is normal. So it's really the spell casting that is different. All right, what shall we move on to next? We're gonna skip over to the cards. Or actually, we can look at the dice real quick. The dice are the dice that you know and love, although we only get 4 combat dice with this one. Which there are weapons in this that do 5 combat dice attacks, so I guess you just have to reroll. Looking at the cards, we'll start with equipment spells first, or equipment cards. There we go. It is the same card back that is in the UK version, not similar to the North America version, which had the armory sheet that actually kind of kept all this chaos in the box in check a little bit. But that is what the card looks like. And most of these, I would say, are pretty similar. If you haven't, there's some artwork that's on the UK version that wasn't in the North America version, like for I think the staff was different. I believe this is new to all the versions. It is essentially a wizard's cloak, but it is an equipment, not an artifact. So it's got this crazy looking wizard on the front, deflecting arrows. I don't know, it's very tiny to see, but deflecting arrows with his cloak. It is 350 gold coins and serves as a 1 body point defense for the wizard. Outside of that, you have, I'll just flip it this way, broadsword, potion of healing, and you'll note they do have all of these, assigned the cost at the bottom. Potion of healing wasn't for sale originally, but apparently it is in this version. The crossbow, more potions of healing, the spear, which wasn't in the North America version. You get 3 combat dice, attack diagonally for 500 gold. I don't know why you just wouldn't buy the crossbow. You've got the hatchet, or the hand axe, for 250 gold coins. Shield at the same price as normal. Or maybe this was the spear. Short sword, the plate armor, the helmet. That helmet is 250 gold coins, so I guess there's a little bit of cost difference in some of these. And treasure. Treasure deck looks very familiar. In terms of the actual treasure deck, again, very similar to the UK version. We've got our hazards, potion of speed, potion of defense, the jewels, the single jewel, and so on and so forth. Wandering monster. The holy water, which I believe was in the UK version, but not in the North America version. Came later in at least in the Hasbro releases. I think most of the rest of this is pretty similar. Treasure hoard. Yep, that's about it. And then the monster cards. The hot pink monster. And in terms of the monsters themselves, when I did a direct translation of this, I called this a Dark Warrior. So maybe some of the Games Workshop names don't easily translate. Maybe Chaos wouldn't work directly. Or I don't know if they had the rights for China or for the Japanese version. But this is our Dark Warrior. His stats do differ a little bit. So he's got 3 attack dice, 4 defend dice, 6 movement, 2 body points, and 3 mind points. Most of this is like the UK version where most monsters do have only 1 body point, although there are ones like this in the Gargoyle that do have 2 body points. There is also a gold number at the bottom. So for every monster you kill, not just in that one Bastion of Chaos quest, every quest you get a gold reward for every monster that you kill. This works kind of as part of the leveling system, which in the rules, you can actually try to level up at the end of every quest. And you roll a certain number of combat dice to try to level up, but you have to pay 500 gold to do so. So that's where this gold value really comes in handy. It's a currency to help you allow to level up. And when you do level up, like I said, you have to roll, I think, either 3 or 4 combat dice, and you need to roll 2 shields, white shields, in order to level up. So you could be throwing 500 gold away potentially. But when you do level up, it gives you 1 additional body point, and that is what the leveling up gives you. So could build up quite a few body points over the course of this if you have enough money. We have the zombie, 20 gold reward, the orc, 20 gold reward, the Fumir, he is a 30 gold reward, but only 1 body point. The gargoyle, 4 attack, 4 defend, 2 body points, 4 mind, 150 gold coin. We've got the skeleton, 10 gold coin reward, the mummy, only 1 body point, 50 gold coin reward, and the goblin for 5 gold. All right, next we have the spells, which again, these are considered the advanced spells, so you would only get access to these. I don't remember which quest it is, but something like the last 4 quests, you would have access to these spells. The artwork, is the same. Earth and water. I love these cards. And we have air spells of Genie. So the Genie, they did nerf a little bit. He only has 3 attack dice for whatever reason. I don't know that I could play that way, but he really got the shaft on this one. You have Swift Wind and you have Tempest. The mechanics of most of these spells are the same as in the other versions. I must have pulled one of the other fire spells away. Ball of Flame and Fire of Wrath got a boost. So while the Genie got nerfed, these fire spells are really put forth as the main attack spells. So Ball of Flame now is 3 combat dice, or 3 damage. And the Fire of Wrath is targeting any monster anywhere on the board. You don't even have to have it in line of sight, which is, I believe, similar to the UK versions. And that is 2 body points of damage. Let's see, did I hide that fire spell somewhere in here? I know it's around, so we'll find it. There it is. Courage. And this one is one that has had several iterations depending on which edition of the game you're looking at. I know Avalon Hill in the recent version has had it that it's the 2 attack dice for as long as you can see a monster, but it also goes away after you use it for that 1 attack. It is kind of the latest ruling with the first light edition. In this version, they explicitly do say you get the 2 additional combat dice damage, and the only condition for it going away is that you can no longer see a monster. So it is how I played growing up, that you get that 2 combat dice damage for as long as you can see a monster. Earth spells, we have Heal Body, Rock Skin, Pass Through Rock. All of those are the same. And the water spells, Water of Healing, Sleep. And Sleep, it does explicitly actually call out that the monster will wake if attacked. And Veil of Mist. And I saved the best for last with the artifacts. This does not come with all the artifacts that we're used to. So there's only 5 artifacts, but they are essential to the story of the game, most of them. We have the Talisman of Lore, which in this case is not anything to do with mind points. This is essentially a free hero resurrection. So there are rules in the rule book about hero resurrection. It is allowed. Basically, you have to give all of that hero's money to the temple. And there's a dice roll that happens to see if that hero is resurrected. Obviously, after any quest has happened. If you get total party killed, then everybody's just gone. But you can revive one hero after a quest, even without this. But what this does is it gives you a free resurrection where they get to retain all of their gold. And this is kind of a one-time use artifact. The rest of the artifacts are tied into the story and are not to spoil too much, but I'll claim a little bit of spoilers here, are sought out by the heroes as part of the quests in order to defeat Grimden. So we do have the Fire Axe, which is kind of like basically the Battle Axe. It is 4 attack dice. I think that as I was going through the equipment deck, there was no Battle Axe. So this is the only way you can get that 4 attack Battle Axe is by getting this Fire Axe, which I think on Eudoxio's PDF version of it, they might have also added kind of an extra fire effect to the axe, which was kind of fun, and I like that. We have now I'm going to forget the name of it. It's not the Wand of Recall. It is the Wand of Recall. For the wizard, this is a wizard-specific artifact, can only be used by him, and it does not allow him to cast spells twice at once. What it does in this version is allows him unlimited use of all of the elemental spells. So when you first get to the advanced level of spell casting, typically you're only allowed to use each spell once. This allows you unlimited spamming of Genie, Bowl of Flame, Fire of Wrath, whatever you want, you can use repeatedly. So very, I would say, probably overpowered artifact. We have the Freeze Bow, which is a longbow that we don't normally get to see in this game, although many of us have homebrewed, and it has 4 attack dice at range. It'd be nice to add kind of a freeze effect homebrewed onto that as well. And finally, the Silver Sword, which is this glowing great sword, has 5 combat dice attacks. So the Barbarian gets to retain the title as the strongest. This is for Barbarian use only. I think I forgot to mention the other ones. Obviously, the axe is for the dwarf and the bow is for the elf. This is for the Barbarian. So that is all of the cards. And I think the only thing we have left now is the books. So let's dive into those. First, we have the rule book. You can see the kind of assembly and/or contents instructions here on the front. Actually, I think the assembly is here on the first page for the gargoyle, the furniture. And it does have these headers on each of the pages. So this is related to what I mentioned on the front of the box, as well as with the wizard and elf spellcasting, that there are levels or phases. So this represents the beginner phase rules and gives, most of the rules are laid out here in the beginner phase, but there are some differences. For example, in the beginner phase, there are no traps, there are no treasures. So traps and treasures. There are no secret doors. So there is no searching required in the beginner levels. There's also line of sight differences in the beginner levels. So if you are casting a spell or have a ranged attack within a room, you can actually see through the monsters. You still can't move through them, but you can actually see anywhere in the room. That again changes later on when you get to the harder rules, which to me might be a little confusing that you're changing rules mid-quest, but we've got examples here for what adjacency means versus kind of in the square surrounding a target. You've got the description for the actual quest page. And kind of more of the standard explanation of what goes on. And then here we get to the intermediate level. This is where they really start laying out things like line of sight rules, movement rules on where you can move. And I love this attack and defense example diagram. It looks to me a lot like For any of you that played the initial Final Fantasy, it looks like something laid out in one of those types of games. Side-by-side attack and defense. I really do love this laughing heartily Chaos Warrior. I have not seen that graphic anywhere else. Really great graphic there. And then we move to the advanced rules section. Line of sight, I guess, changes a little bit. Yeah, just a lot of text here, and since I don't read Japanese, it's hard for me to give a play-by-play, but yep, and they even have kind of alternate rules, so being able to see this trap in advance. I think most of us are used to, yeah, you have to fall in the pit trap in this example. Apparently in this version, if you see that you can actually search for traps, usually in the presence of monsters, so they're proposing an alternate rule to make it harder, that you can't search for anything while a monster is present, which is what we're all used to, but that's apparently an alternate rule here. And the blank quest map to encourage those young Japanese boys and girls to build their own quests, and a appendix at the end, which is kind of nice. For all of you people who love maps like me, this one comes with a map. I know the UK version had a map that was kind of the Warhammer world, but this is the world of Grim Dead and Neef Island. So Neef Island, kind of the cradle of civilization over here on, I guess, the eastern or western side of the island. With the ship sailing into it. It kind of looks like Japan to me, kind of the Crescent Island off the coast of the continent. And then you have multiple locations that you encounter during your quests. This is all in English, so I can read it. There's the heart of the Kingdom of Grimdead is right here in the center. Multiple places around it. White Mountain, Black Mountain, a fortress named Pain. What else do we have? Star Lake here at the bottom. The Frozen Ocean. So a lot of cool details and locations. It really helps bring this to life. And finally, the quest book. Looks a little bit different than the other quest books. It is a black and white print. This is where we get into the quests. So spoiler alert, I am showing quest pages. And you can see the layout here. It calls out on the banner here. This is the beginner quest, starting here in quest 1. The first quest here being the Test of Strength, which might sound familiar, more familiar to North American users with the Trial. So they did adopt the Trial instead of the Maze. Although you are still killing Varag, but Varag is instead a Famir instead of a Gargoyle, interestingly enough. I'm not going to call out too much because I don't want to spoil a ton, but I will kind of read the quest names because you can't tell what they are here. You've got the Digos Fort. Thick pages. The Fortress of Pain. The Ruins of Way. The Dread Castle. The Ghost Ship. Really cool that they have a Ghost Ship quest. Obviously on the Frozen Sea. The Trial of White Mountain. And some of these are noticeably similar to the original 14 quests, but the story does end up diverging quite a bit. As we are, Grim Dead is still, you still have the big bad, but it is a cohesive story throughout. It is not, more episodic like the original 14 quests were. This is definitely all within a storyline driven towards a conclusion. So I do appreciate that about it. Curse of Darkness quest. It does look like someone was flipping through this while they were cooking dinner, unfortunately. There's some, looks like oil spatter on these. Quest 9, the Spirit Valley. Quest 10, the Wizard of Fire. That one might sound familiar. Quest 11, Bular's Struggle. Bular is what they call the Wizard of Fire. The Mystery of Star Lake. This one may look familiar to you as well with the teleporting doors dynamic. The Temple of Ice. And the final battle against Grimdead. So 14 quests, comes with an ending, a little nice picture celebrating your success as champions of the realm. This is where they have the monster reference on the back page. Looks a little bit like they faxed it over. The quality is not great on the pictures. And that's that. So I hope you enjoyed this unboxing. Feel free to shoot me any questions if you have any details that maybe I didn't call out that you were curious about. And or you can go, like I said, download an English translated version of all the quests on Ye Olde Inn. Very highly recommend that. It is entertaining to play through. I don't think Avalon Hill, unfortunately, is going to be reproducing this, again, because it's a little bit niche. Not a lot of the fans even know about it, so the nostalgia isn't there. And a lot of the quests end up being very similar to what we already have in the base game system. So, but it is awesome. It is good to play with on your own in a playthrough, and maybe borrow some ideas from, for example, the leveling system or the how to get more utility out of your wizard with multiple spells and spell casting. So I think some ideas that you can potentially borrow from. But that's all. Thank you. I appreciate your time and happy questing.